Today, a multidimensional attack against the Bolivarian Revolution of Venezuela tries to create a new regional organization, in between quotes, without ideologies, for a best development cooperation. We gotta review all of the organizations that there have been here, and then it's enough to see who are trying to form this new organization, what do they think about Venezuela, just to get some conclusions. At the same time, this makes us understand the regional panorama. Are there positions from the right-wing government trying to intervene in the inner affairs of Venezuela and being obedient to the US interests? Are they trying to create an organization of coup plotters after the repeated failures from OAS and failures without formal institutions led by the Lima Group? Unasur versus Prosur. Regional political tensions, that's the topic of today at Critical Moves. We start now and check the events and the facts and the actors related here. We start now. In an attempt to replace Unasur, Colombia and Chile have called for the birth of Prosur. They are trying to create a more skillful organization to break the Bolivarian Revolution. They're trying to form a new organization in the midst of the differences and conflicts existing. We cannot be part of an institution that has been the biggest ally of dictatorship. We will stop participating in every activity of that organization. We won't give a single penny for the budget of that institution. We will officially leave the Treaty of Unasur. Unasur is practically inactive for 3 years and hasn't achieved any results. Prosur is a bad idea for many reasons. It's another institution. A new institution is not practical. It will mean more institutionality to the ones that already exist. Let's check the necessary characterization of Unasur. That comes from the attempt to overcome inequality, to go over the differences and the problems. The Union of South American Nations, best known as Unasur, it's a political community and economic community originally integrated by 12 countries of the region: Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Panama and Mexico work as observers. It was born after the leadership of Hugo Chavez. In December of 2004, there was a meeting where the idea was conceived in Peru. On 2008, all the members signed the constitution document that started and gave birth to the institution. The Council of Heads of State and Government is the highest organization. They plan programs and action plans. There are strict guidelines and plans of action. The Secretary General leads, after it's designed by the Council of States, designs and enforces the orders agreed by the committee. It works in the defense of sovereignty and free self-determination, conflict resolution based on compromise cooperative projects in various areas, and international recognition. Some members changed after differences in the region, after certain victories from the right wing and attacks against Venezuela. Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Peru, Paraguay, and Ecuador stepped out of this organization. They're trying to replace Unasur with Prosur, an initiative that comes as a tool to defend, between quotes, democracy, separation of powers, and guarantee free market economy. It was announced by Iván Duque in Colombia on January, and on March 22nd, a meeting in Chile is expected. Is this led by the United States? Now we visit the website Infobae from Argentina, which published the next strong differences from the presidents from Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay for the creation of Prosur. This happened in the South-South Summit in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The presidents shown in this article shared some opinions, and the political debate was totally opposed to the creation of Prosur. Creating a new institution like this one would be another mistake for Latin America, which has a lot of processes of integration in the region, like Mercosur, the CARICOM, and many others. This is the region with most integration process in the world, they said. They sent a message that was translated to Macri, Piñera, and Benítez. We must think well and not commit mistakes that we committed before. In the end of the quote, we can see the presidents from Chile and Argentina and Uruguay. That is the opinion of the possible creation of Prosur that Piñera has, along with Iván Duque, has proposed. Tomorrow they will try to create this and they will propose it again. Tabaré Vázquez said that he won't go to Chile, but he will send his vice foreign minister as a representative. Well, that's how they talk about in Infobae about this. Now we go to the Irani website with the title "Is Socialism in Latin America in the Need of Modernization?" This is from Hispan TV, created by Marcelo Colucci, expert in psychology and philosophy. He said, saying that socialism failed is a mistake. In any case, it didn't progress as it was expected, but definitely in everywhere where it existed, it solved many problems produced by capitalism. In socialism, no one starved or was illiterate. There was never invasions from socialist countries against others. But there were not many triumphs compared to the ravaging successes of capitalism, which are based on the ethics of save your own self. This was published in Hispan TV, as you can see. This is important to consider, and now we ask to ourselves, there was any sequence of attacks against the regional processes of integration? Why have these countries tried to kill the Union of South American Nations, Unasur? Why do they want to create a new alternative organization like Prosur? It's enough to see who are the members trying to create this, and which would be the role of this alleged mechanism of cooperation without ideologies, as they say. Isn't that word one of the main criticisms that have taken place to Sebastián Piñera along with Iván Duque? No ideologies. Some analysts say, is it changing one ideology for another ideology? That's the question that is born after this. important questions that we must make to ourselves. We were saying in the beginning that there was a meeting to try to consolidate this alternative organization. It's set for tomorrow in Chile, so we go there, and from Santiago we have Paola Dragnic, journalist and correspondent of Telesur. Paola, we were in touch with you before. Do you have any new updates on this? Hey Lucia, hello and hello to our audience of Telesur. The truth is that Santiago already feels the collapse and the chaos produced by the blocks of streets around the place where the meeting is going to take place. We were in the Palacio de la Moneda, the presidential house. Some of the police forces moved the people around the streets who were not happy with this. They don't really know very well what's going on. President Piñera said in Cúcuta that there has not been a big repercussion of these decisions in the streets of Chile. Iván Duque will have a protocol launch at Palacio de la Moneda with Piñera around 4 p.m., one of the most controversial visits that has created a lot of reactions, also because of the visit of Jair Bolsonaro. An agenda that is not very well known will be enforced, and here in Chile people think and whisper that some of the detained people of the dictatorship of Pinochet might be released even after they were condemned for violation of human rights. Tomorrow, Lucia, President of Argentina, the President of Paraguay and the President of Peru will be here, that's confirmed, and it was informed to the local media and media around the world covering this story. The access to Palacio de la Moneda will be tomorrow at 9:45 in the morning and will end at the 13 hours at noon. Thank you, Paola, for these details. See you later. Well, tomorrow we will have contact with people in Santiago or correspondents in Santiago to see what's going on with this important meeting. Now, let's remember one of the questions that we were doing before. So, why there have been so many attacks against the Latin American integration processes? These processes that were born after the progressist forces worked for them, mechanisms that were not following the orders of the United States. And if Prosur is born, which would be its role in the region? Which is its notion of integration? Okay, we go to a break now. We will keep analyzing this with our guests, and we'll be back now. Unasur versus Prosur. Conflicts and tensions in the region geopolitical panorama. What are the ideas to try to break Unasur? The past decades, the progressive governments broke the coups and dictatorships of the past with the goal of and now trying to break the forces of the left. They are trying to create Prosur. These have been dirty punches, dirty hits against the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean that doesn't follow the orders of the United States. In 2002, Fernando Lugo was the victim of a coup, which in less than 24 hours forced him to leave power. Later, Horacio Cartes took office, who was a right-wing representative. In Brazil, there was another coup while Mauricio Macri was taking office, who tried to stain the name of the Kirchners. In 2017, the role of Ernesto Samper was over as Secretary General of Unasur, and different actions and events blocked the organization from choosing a new Secretary General. Being in Unasur, Colombia led the reconfiguration of the regional politics, especially from the Pacific Alliance, but obviously trying to weaken the regional integration in Latin America. In 2018, right-wing forces make Lenin Moreno win the presidency of Ecuador, and he orders to kill the building of Unasur in Quito. Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva was detained and Bolsonaro took office in Brazil. Macri and Bolsonaro have followed the economic policies of the United States with privatizations and loans to the IMF.
Vamos de una vez a casa. telesurtv.net titulaba hace 4 días Bolivia, Unasur.
In Telesur, our website, we published Bolivia, Unasur, it's still alive, in spite of some attacks from certain countries. The Foreign Minister of Bolivia said that the organism is facing many difficulties right now, but it's still alive, with its active members, in spite of the lack of continuity that have had during the past years. By the way, only Colombia has made its retirement formal. This is what the Bolivian representative said. Also, it was said that Bolivia offers the buildings in Cochabamba to host the new headquarters of Unasur after the decisions taken by the Ecuadorian president, who asked for the building to be returned to the country where Unasur used to work. Let's go now to the Brazilian newspaper Brasil de Fato, which says, well, after and analyzes this reconfiguration of the political forces in the region, it says, after the visit to the US, Bolsonaro surrenders to the interests of the United States and comes back with empty hands. Bolsonaro visited Donald Trump on last Tuesday and promised to keep the attacks against President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro. Instead, Trump gave a vague signal of support and the new ultra-right government gave a national soccer team's jersey to the United States president as a sign of friendship. This is what happened in this diplomatic encounter and official visit in the United States.
Bueno, retomando una información que teníamos o que leíamos hace solo minutos.
We analyzed the information that we had before from Argentina. We can say that they are trying to work on the last details to create Prosur. We will talk to our correspondent Edgardo Esteban in Buenos Aires. Edgardo, welcome to Jugada Crítica. Hi, Lucia, and all our audience of Telesur. Well, there was a call from Macri to the presidents of Uruguay and Paraguay and Chile, not for ideological or political context. They are trying to break the process that have taken place for 15 years now to integrate the region, to work for the people. This integration that now is trying to be destroyed after this South-South summit that talks about the difficulties of the problems of South America, of Africa and Asia, that defends neoliberal policies. And Mauricio Macri tries to bury Unasur, trying to leave outside members like Bolivia with Evo Morales, or Mexico, who was only an observer country. This summit that is going to take place tomorrow, we'll talk about this. Macri presented his doubts about the function of Unasur, and they have defended the interests of the United States and the government of Donald Trump. They will follow every order that has to do with the isolation of Venezuela, and that follows things like the incarceration of Lula and the attacks against Cristina Kirchner. They will just follow neoliberal orders, which have already affected the economy of different countries, like the one in Argentina. They are fighting Unasur, an organization that was trying to fight poverty and inequality, and has only caused hunger policies, which are already being enforced in Argentina. They are trying to create Prosur, and they don't care about the situation of the peoples, the real situation of the peoples. They are trying to change the left-wing policies, but we must check only what has happened in Venezuela, in Argentina, and in Venezuela after the popular support that the progressist countries have. They are trying to look for alternatives that are not definitive. Thank you, Edgardo. Very valuable what you told us. And very important to connect to our guests, because now we go to the deep analysis with them. We have Margarita Vargas in Mexico, a research and president of the Mexican Association of Caribbean Studies. And we will also connect later in France with Christian Rodriguez, political analyst and sociologist. Okay, Margarita, I ask you, are you also noticing weird signs of attacks against left-wing governments, which don't follow the orders of the United States? Yeah, for sure. I think that we're living a very difficult situation in political terms in a worldwide level, where there is a rise of the right wing, very conservative right wing, which has economic plans and political plans which are very evident in many countries of the South of America, which are trying to attack democratically elected governments, and will try to will try to break the economies of left-wing countries or progressive countries. So now they're in power, and they don't have really political proposals or ideas, consolidated ideas that can help their governments and take them to improve the conditions, the economic conditions and political conditions of their own peoples. So the concerning thing is not to have a right wing. That has always existed. What is concerning is that this right wing is in power now, and it's very sad that they don't have any political or economic ideas that can improve their peoples and their situations. I ask you now, specifically about this initiative of Prosur. There is an important meeting tomorrow in Santiago, and that received a lot of criticism because they said it was an idea without ideologies interfering in this. What can you tell us about this? Well, I think that there cannot be an organization, an international organization in South America or in Latin America to talk about important topics that define the future of these countries without an ideology. That cannot happen. That doesn't exist. There is always an ideology and a political position. So from my point of view, that's a deceit. There can't be an organization like that as they describe them. What we can see is that there is a link to support the current government of the United States. It is impossible what they are supporting, especially in the present context of the politics in the region. Thank you, Margarita. Now I want to join from France Christian Rodriguez, political analyst, about this topic in today's Critical Move. During the best years of Unasur, Christian, there were chances to develop a better situation for the region, regardless of the different political positions that were by that time. The South American Congress of Defense was improved and advanced, which was trying to create this region, to bring peace to the region. How was that possible? Well, hello, Lucia. It's a pleasure to be here in this new episode of Jugada Crítica, Critical Moves. Well, they are trying to finish Unasur. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to promote this Prosur as a replacement. Let's remember that during 2008 with Néstor Kirchner, Unasur was a tool of integration. There was support from Bolivia, they were trying to solve the resolution of their conflict with Chile. Latin America was declared a peace zone, but now we live a constant threat because of the very fact of Chile trying to give birth to this. I think there is a group of failed presidents trying to create Prosur, and we can see the decay led by Trump in our region. We can see how he how he supports Guaidó and how he, without a doubt, was failed. This new tool that they're trying to create is not going to succeed. Okay, Christian, so I ask you, can Colombia be an important member to enforce these plans if there was a conflict for the regional lead between Chile, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, and considering the participation of these countries in this destabilization of Venezuela? Can there be a conflict between them, or can they work together? Do you think they can work together? I think that these are terrible characters, all of them. Bolsonaro, for starters, who's trying to save what's left in his government. Recently we saw that the United States invited him to take a picture with him in the White House. Bolsonaro, of everything that promised, he has no chance to fulfill that, so he is not a good leader. He's just there, he was there in the United States only as a pawn to receive U.S. military bases. Their system is extremely weak. In the case of Chile, Piñera is shameful. He has a lot of rejection from the Chilean people. What he installed in Chile and the speed in which he has repressed the social movements is something that we can see. And in Colombia, what can we say about Colombia? You know it very well. That president is only selling the country to the United States to support coups. There are three characters with three different models that are only serving the United States, but with no support from their people. I would say that this Prosur will also fall for its own weight. Now in Peru we can see how they put in jail Vicente Mea in Peru for corruption. We can see how these countries are decaying, they are decadent. These characters only follow the orders of the United States. Well, now, Margarita, do you agree with Christian about what I asked him? About these policies, and I want to ask you if the main goal here is to attack Venezuela, if all of this is only to attack and interfere in its inner conflicts in Venezuela. Well, I think that there has been a rampage against the Venezuelan government, and that's clear, that's obvious. Even from other countries that are not even in Latin America. Now, one of the main goals of this Prosur is to invade Venezuela and take its oil, which is one of the main producers of oil in the world. Yeah, sadly, the Colombian government has acted recently in a way that is very concerning in relation to Venezuela. They are trying to break their independence and sovereignty. In the case of Mexico, we have foreign policy principles that the Mexican government follows. One of them is not to intervene in foreign affairs, political or economic affairs. So yeah, in regards to the Venezuelan situation, I think it's very concerning. coming from different countries from Latin America. And I think that might also be ordered by the United States. I think that the Mexican government will keep defending these principles I told you before in regards to Venezuela. And I think that the attitude and the position, this attitude and positions must be followed by other governments. Well, I tell you, Christian, I ask you, Christian, is this context leading us to where? Where is this leading us to? The biggest challenge here is to build peace, to achieve peace in the region. Peace that the Venezuelan people are trying to achieve. The situation is extremely concerning in Venezuela, and unity in Latin America must be achieved with peace. With these governors and leaders today, we must think how to recover democracy. We gotta find an option to break these minorities that are governing with military support. So the main issue here is integration and peace. There must be support for the social, political, and economic movements that are trying to find an alternative against these people. We can see that in the coming elections in Argentina to replace Macri. We need to find alternatives to defeat these governments with tools outside these neoliberal governments. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Margarita, for your opinions in Jugada Crítica. Well, now we ask you for the next block with our next guest. How can we make these processes to implode? Are these processes trying to break integration in Latin America, and are they focused on Venezuela? We go to a break and we'll be back. We're back. Unasur versus Prosur. Tensions in the regional geopolitics. Which are these attempts to break the Union of South America, led by Lula Silva, Chavez? Is it linked to a program to break Venezuelan integrity and sovereignty? Venezuela was the victim, has been the victim of a series of attacks that have blocked Venezuela to break the Bolivarian Revolution. After a change of presidents and a union of different right-wing governments, they have blocked for weeks the access to gasoline, water, and transport in Venezuela. Now the US has applied new sanctions Minerven, the main mining company of Venezuela, was also sanctioned. The US are trying to block this economic activity, considering that Venezuela enjoys a large reserve of minerals. Now the US president has $5 billion blocked from accessing Venezuela, money that is needed to buy medicine, water, and different services in the country. They have been clearly violating the Vienna Convention. The last aggression was led by the self-proclamation of Juan Guaidó, declaring himself the new president of Venezuela, illegally. Many spokespeople in Venezuela have even supported these attacks. Now they're trying to create Prosur, probably as a way to attack again Venezuela, to block them and isolate them. Is this trying to give sovereignty to the Lima group? Now, to deepen more, we have Fernando Rivero. Thank you, Fernando, for being with us. Thank you, Lucia. So I ask you the last thing we're talking about. Is Prosur an attempt to attack again Venezuela, as it has happened many different times, which has not been successful, as we could see? Well, Prosur is part of a geopolitical effort of the United States, led by it and supported by the other countries that support the United States. In other words, it's an effort to change the correlation of forces in Latin America and the Caribbean, and also here in South America. Prosur is that. It's not gonna be disguised as an integration process, but it will try to be the new institution that will legitimate any action against Venezuela. A country with a strong trade system, with a lot of natural resources. So that's the importance between Bolsonaro and Trump. Because they were talking about how to apply the policies of the United States in Latin America and the Caribbean. Do you think that was talked during that meeting? Well, yeah. Now we must think about the importance from the economic point of view of Brazil for the region, and the right-wing policies followed by Trump and Bolsonaro. They agree in a military, economic, and political way, and they will work together to attack Venezuela and against its people. That's why they follow these policies, and from there comes the need of the United States to break the regional unity, and that's also why they talked about ALCA in the past. But then Mercosur was created, and the United States felt a setback in their progress. Now I ask you, you said this. Prosur was an action to look for more coordination to end with the dictatorship of Venezuela and to achieve better cooperation between countries in South America. So you were saying that maybe the goal is to isolate Venezuela in a political way, and if Prosur is only a facade for this, which kind of democracy are they talking about here, especially Iván Duque? Because Colombia has been attacking the social leaders, the indigenous leaders. There have been 11 days of social minga, social protests, and the armed forces have been attacking them. They have been violating constitutional rights and human rights in Colombia. So what kind of democracy do they talk about? Well, Colombia lives, sadly, a failed peace process. Colombia, at the same time, violates many human rights as a state policy. The Colombian governors have no credibility, no moral grounds to talk about this. They're not only trying to create conditions to break the Venezuelan government, they will reinforce their military forces to break this. The United States are trying to replace China in some of the regional markets. For example, in Brazil, China is the main investor there. So that's why the United States is trying to make these new alliances with Brazil to aggregate those natural resources. So the United States is considering this to replace China. And also they are considering how Russia is a challenge for them. They are trying to apply the Monroe Doctrine again. They are trying to establish their bases in Rio Bravo, and they want new servants for the White House. That's why Venezuela is a big obstacle for the plans of the United States in this region. We heard some statements from Santiago in Chile, where in a few hours this meeting will take place, trying to consolidate Prosur as a replacement for Unasur, a place where in a few hours some protests might also happen to reject these policies, according to our correspondent Paula Dragnic. We declare Mr. Bolsonaro as a persona non grata here in Chile because he discriminates people, he goes against human rights, the most basic human rights of every society. We understand his link to the president of Chile. They are led by corruption. Now we are with the different student groups and feminist groups in the country, and we're organizing to protest against this Prosur summit, which is an organization led by corrupt businessmen that don't respect the rights of workers in Latin America. Among these initiatives, there is this concert to support the integration of Latin America and the Caribbean. We can see that the phantom of war and interventionism from the empire is coming again to South America. South America has never, in its hundreds of years of history, has never accepted an invasion, a military invasion from foreign forces. In the first time of Latin America, of South America, is the first time in which we are embracing this. We're facing the threat of armed forces from foreign places. So, what is the importance of this resistance? Well, I think that there are two. Is there this resistance? Well, yeah, there is resistance, and it's very important right now because we can see that there are two different points of views about integration. On one side, we have integration understood as a neoliberal concept, which means free trade agreements, which means violation of economic rights. And on the other side, the point of view of integration that was the one who gave birth to Unasur and different integration organizations. This is a point of view that rejects neoliberal policies and that establishes organizations that go beyond the economic issues, that focuses also in cultural exchange or social exchange. Now, this resistance raises its voice because we know what it means to establish Prosur. Prosur will be the spearhead of the imperial powers. It will try to legitimate some policies to break rules and to violate rights. That's why the US is trying to establish, and has already established, many bases in South America, and these treaties to join countries to NATO. We can see that it happened also in Ecuador with a new military base, the recent visit of Bolsonaro to the United States, where they agreed on establishing a new US military base in Brazil. While this resistance tries to break the principles of Prosur, they're trying to bring peace to the region and to fight the US government, who is trying to feed its foreign policies, its neoliberalism, and allegedly is trying to break controversy in the region. But we can see that this is not only a regional problem, but a problem for the world. Venezuela is raising its voice in the Security Council of UN, even in OAS, which is integrated by members that are allies of the United States. We can see that the most of the governments of the region, even governments opposed to the Bolivarian government, they don't want a war in this region. Many governments, the majority of governments, condemn the invasion of Venezuela, as many countries in this region. Can you see Prosur as a possible thing? Because nothing formally has happened, and there are differences between right-wing governments. They will try, they will work for that. That will happen tomorrow in Santiago de Chile. So this will have a big influence of the United States. These are just puppet presidents of the United States, Piñera, Macri, etc. They will do whatever they need to consolidate this. And they will try to fulfill the orders of this new organization, which will obviously turn into a tool of the neoliberal policies. They will follow that trend. And maybe tomorrow they won't reach an agreement, but if they do it tomorrow or in the immediate future, we gotta say that there is an intention of the allies of the White House to create a new order. Maybe in the end it's worthless, right? Because if they start or give another self-proclamation of power like the one of Guaidó, it will have no grounds for it to be legitimate. Yeah, because the elites that tried to lead the coup against Zelaya or the coup against Dilma Rousseff, these are the same elite groups that participated there, and all of them are allies, servants of the United States. They will try to create the conditions to develop a systematic theft of the resources of South America, and especially the Amazon region. Let's remember that this region is shared by many other countries. For example, Venezuela, Brazil, Peru, Colombia. We gotta know that we have the biggest reserve of water of the planet, of oxygen, of biodiversity, animals and plants. This is a very rich region. We're talking about a very wealthy region. And that's why the United States is trying to interfere here. They're trying to break the hegemony of Russia and China. These are some of the main issues related to these invasions and attacks. They are trying to develop a project of conservative elites led by the United States, only to help the United States achieve global hegemony. Thank you, Fernando. It was very important to talk to you. Thank you very much. Now we go to our conclusions.
Definitivamente dos visiones antagónicas de concebir la integración, como hay dos visiones antagónicas de concebir
two opposite points of view, one in support of the peoples and their needs, who are trying to keep the peace in the world, and another one that is trying to support the power of the United States and the neoliberal policies. Now, the second ones are trying to create new policies and conditions to support interventionism and to kill the hegemony of Russia and China. What are
From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo. This is from the South. Venezuelan Interior Justice